Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today, we are going to do the Friday recap. So this is a weekly show, which, non-spoiler, I'm going to talk about all the books that I've read this week, the books that I'm currently reading, that I'm planning to read next. Then I'm going to talk about the videos that have gone up this week, the videos that are going up next week, a few channel stats, and a little bit of other media. So if I've been watching a film, playing a game, something like that, I'll always talk about it here. Now, let's get into this week because I've got a lot to discuss. First off, I even have notes. That's how much I have to discuss. First off, let's talk about books. So, books that I read this week. I read The Eyes of Empire by J.C.M. Byrne. I finished that last Friday. I believe that I actually finished it before recording the Friday show because if I'm right near the end of a book, I do tend to do that. But really enjoyed this one. Would highly recommend it as you know the whole of the rest of the Hybrid Helix series. But realistically, also, you know, you have to read 4 books to get there, and they are quick, easy, fun reads. So if you're looking for that like superhero space opera stuff, so if you're a fan of shows like Invincible, or you are into shows like Babylon 5, Deep Space Nine, where it's like that kind of space station drama, sci-fi stuff, then Eyes of Empire and the whole Hybrid Helix is really worth a read. I rated this one a 5-star, and I do think it's the best one. Previously, I think that my favourite was probably book 3 or 4. Book 3 probably. 4 was so good as well. But yeah, Eyes of Empire is now my definitive favourite. There's not, I think before I was like, wow, they're all good, but now I'm like, Eyes of Empire is the best. Can you trust my review? Maybe not, because I am thanked in the acknowledgements at the beginning of the book. So, am I biased? Possibly. However, I really love this book, and I really think that everyone who is watching the channel, who is into that sort of superhero sci-fi stuff, will like it too. After I read that, I also read another book by a friend of mine. I read Silence is Silver by Andrew Watson. So this is a novella which is set in his Shadowbinders world. It's a prequel novella to the first book, and it's focusing on one of the smaller characters that you don't get to spend much time with in Harbinger of Justice, and it's kind of giving a bit of a more of a view of their life growing up and things like that. So this one I did not like as much as Harbinger of Justice. So Harbinger of Justice, you guys may remember this, I gave this one 4-star, and I said that, you know, this was my favourite like fantasy with this sort of like desert backdrop that I'd ever read, and I've read more like deserty set fantasy stuff since, and I do think it still is my favourite. The thing that I felt with Silence is Silver was that it's really hard to write a good and satisfying novella, and I felt like a lot of the like adventure of the novella is packed into like the second half, instead of, you know, instead of having like an opening, a main plot adventure sort of thing, and then a closing, it kind of has opening, main plot adventure, and then a small closing section. So it wasn't, when I'm looking at a novella, and this is actually the same problem that the next book that I read, which was also a novella, has, which is that there's a lot of time spent on the setup, which you have time for in a full fantasy novel, but in a novella, you kind of have to ignore the urge to world build on the same sort of scale. So Andrew's done really good world building, and the character work is really good, but I think that overall the plot of the novella suffers because of the focus on those two things. So I'm going to go fully into this on my review. We're going to do a novella week where my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday videos are all going to be novella reviews. I don't know when that's going to be. Those videos will probably be a little bit shorter, but I might even see if I can get a like video chat with some novella authors as well. That could be really fun. I need to read the third novella for that as well. I don't know when I will actually get around to that, because I think I think that the novella week is probably going to be in like 2 or 3 weeks, so I've got time. Anyway, so maybe that could be the end of Self-Pub September. We could do novella week that week. That could be fun, because we're about half. We're at the end of the first third of September. So we'll see. After that, I read A Princess of Aldir by Brian Wilson, which is in his Power of the Stars series. Both of these novellas are like the reader magnets, very similar to how Ryan Carhill wrote The Fall. Originally, that was intended to be the prologue for Of Blood and Fire, but it got kind of too big, and he was like, you know what? We'll make this a novella and we'll give it away to get people a little bit of a sample of my writing. And Silence is Silver and A Princess of Aldir, I think, are really good samplers. So if you want to know what the world is like, what the writing is like of both of these authors, I think that it's definitely, both of them are really good for that specifically. A Princess of Aldir has the exact same problem as Silence is Silver, which is that the main kind of action and plot of it takes place past the halfway mark. I did enjoy this. I enjoyed both, actually, to be honest. I don't know why I'm clarifying that. It's weird because 3 stars in the terms of Goodreads world is almost a negative review, whereas these are both positive reviews. However, what I want to say about Princess of Aldir is that it really inspired me to want to read the main series, which is a massive, obviously that's exactly what Brian Wilson is trying to do. Silence is Silver, I had already read the main series, so I didn't have that urge to be like, oh, what's this? What's going on? What's this about? I already knew what it was about. So, but if I put myself in the shoes of someone who had not read anything, I do think Silence is Silver would have made me go like, wow, how does this fit into the rest of this story, you know? After that, I read and I finished, so this one I read entirely via audio, which was a book called The Dandelion Audit by Andrew Givler. You guys know that I picked up Soul Fraud a couple of weeks ago. So throughout this month of Self-Pub September, I'm trying to read only self-published works. But all the self-published works that I had picked had no audiobooks. And I do like to listen to audiobooks, and I really like to listen to audiobooks on when I'm doing a couple of different things. So number one, when I am out for a walk or out for a drive. So if I'm driving to work or doing a long driving journey, I want to have an audiobook. And 2 is when I am doing my food shopping for my family. So every single weekend I go out and I have to go to 3 different supermarkets because my son has a lot of food allergies. So in order to get all the food that he likes and needs, I have to go to multiple places. And then, so the food shop ends up being like 2 hours almost of my life every weekend. And that 2-hour food shop is where a lot of my audiobook time goes. So, you know, you can listen to a lot of an audiobook in 2 hours, especially if it's one like Dandelion Audit, which is 8 hours long. Not 8 hours long, sorry, 10 hours long. And then on top of that time, I also drove to Oxford to meet up with fellow booktubers Hardy's Books, Ross and Laura. And when I did that journey, I listened to Dandelion Audit the whole way and the whole way back. And I have to say, really, really fantastic book. Really loved it. It's very interesting that I kind of went from a 5 out of 5 self-pub book at the beginning of the week to 3 stars, and then a 4 out of 5 self-pub at the end of the week. So I was expecting this book to improve slightly on Soulful because it is Andrew Givler's second book. I actually liked it very slightly less. And I think a lot of that is because it takes the characters out of the world out of our world and puts them in the world of the Fae. Now, the world of the Fae was really well realised and really interesting, and the scope of that story being a bit smaller because it's set in this kind of small, it's basically all set in one palace. Because that scope is a little smaller, I found the story to be not as interesting. It's more political as well. A lot of the book is about political manoeuvring and who's manipulating who, and I had kind of guessed all of the who's manipulating who stuff fairly early on. Overall, the book was good, and when the twists came that I had kind of guessed, I was still very excited. I really enjoyed the end of the book. I think the end of the book pushed it from a 3 to a 4. But Soul Fraud, I kind of debated giving it a 4 or a 5. Whereas Dandelion Audit, I was debating a 3 or a 4. I'm already reading the third book. We'll talk about that in a minute. This has been a really, really good addition to Self-Pub September because it's been a really different genre, because I don't read urban fantasy very much at all. And on top of it being a different genre and really reminiscent of one of my favorite series, which is the Dresden Files, being able to have these audiobooks, and the audiobooks being so well produced and well done, basically it all comes together for me to being like a real winner of a Self-Pub September pick. So even though it was not in my TBR at all, and I kind of thought that for my audiobook listening this month, I would probably just listen to Path of Daggers via audio, like throughout the month. Every time I had audiobook time, I would just do a bit more Path of Daggers. But I actually would rather just binge that book, to be honest. I don't want to read that on the kind of extended schedule. I found that I read a previous Wheel of Time book over quite a long period because I was on holiday and stuff, and I feel like that series I enjoy most when I binge read it. So those are the books that I've read this week. Let's talk about what I am reading now. So I am reading Star Summit, which is the third deck collection novel by Andrew Givler. This I am reading also on audio. I picked up the ebook and the audiobook for all of these, so I can switch back and forth with Star Summit if I want to, but the audio is so good. I think the audiobook narrator I really, really like, and I'm going to be actively looking for books that they have narrated, I think, in future. But Matthew Moeller, I think, is the name of the narrator. I would look, but my Audible account is obviously on my phone, which I am filming this video with. I'm not very far into Star Summit at the moment. I'm like an hour in, maybe. Basically, I went out for a walk and I finished Dandelion Audit, and then I started Star Summit, and when I was continuing to I basically was listening to Star Summit on the drive home, so yeah, like half an hour I think maybe overall in. I only kind of know what the plot is so far. We are back in LA and we're back in the real world, so excited to see more of Andrew Givler's his like design for the urban fantasy world. One of the things that I love the most about Dresden Files is how the supernatural fits into the natural world, and I think that Andrew Givler has really nailed that. So just kind of looking forward to more of that, honestly. Next after that, and what I'm currently reading, so kind of I want to say like my main read, but like the one that I'm reading when I have time to sit down for a long session of reading, is Return to Adan by Philip Chase. I want to tell you guys up front that I think the prologue for this, it gave me goosebumps, and legitimately one of the best prologues I've ever read. Really short, sharp, to the point. It will massively spoil the previous book, so I can't just be like, go out and read the prologue, it's fantastic. but it genuinely was fantastic. I thought the writing was great. I thought the action, well, not the action, but like the thing that happened was like quite like chilling and interesting. So I'm super excited to be reading this book and to be back in the world of Edan. And it's quite funny because I was thinking about the previous books and being like, I can't remember any of the character names apart from like Dayraven and Bledler. And then as soon as I opened this book, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this person, I remember this person. So it's all come back to me pretty quickly. And yeah, really excited to be back in this world. I'm only on like chapter 4 because I've been reading it quite slowly. And I will tell you why I've been reading it quite slowly. It's because I'm so ahead on my reading, I'm giving myself a little bit of a license to read this one slower and to, you know, play a few games and catch up with some movies with my wife and stuff. So maybe I will finish this next week. If I do finish this next week, I will probably either read the third novella for Novella Week, which is New York Minute by Stephen Arian. If it's not that, not sure what I will read. I want to read something self-published. I would like to read a novella, and I don't want to read fantasy because I'll be going straight from whatever that next book is into Wheel of Time. So oh, you can see Barry in the shot. He's literally right here. He's been begging for some attention. But yeah, so really enjoying Return of It to Edan. Like I said, maybe I won't finish it next week, but if I can, I am enjoying it. So I read like 40 pages in a single session when I first started the book. So yeah, hopefully there'll be lots of reading time this week and I will get lots of reading done. If you've just seen a lot of cat butt, I'm sorry, I'm not editing it. Okay, so now Barry's come up here is a fantastic time for us to have a little bit of a break to talk to our sponsors. I'm sat on a bench on the Strawberry Line and I'm here to talk to you about Your Paper Quest, a bookish subscription box which will send you 2 self-published books every single month over an average of 600 pages of content. These books are selected by the absolutely fantastic people over at Your Paper Quest along a genre or theme, so it could be sci-fi, horror, fantasy. And you won't just get books, you'll also get some bookish bits, access to the Your Paper Quest book club, where you can chat with other subscribers about the books that you're reading, and of course ask questions to the authors. There'll also be author interviews that'll be posted once a month to talk about the books that they've written. And on top of that, you can have this either monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly in the US or the UK. So if you're interested in Your Paper Quest, then why don't you sign up with my discount code, which will give you 20% off, which is SAM20. So if you use SAM20 at checkout, you'll get 20% off your bookish box. And happy reading to you. Okay, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that advert for Your Paper Quest. Thanks also to Your Paper Quest for sponsoring this entire Self-Pub September month of content on the channel. If you would like to win your own bookish box from If you would like to win your own bookish box from Your Paper Quest, there is a competition to win one in the unboxing video on my channel. So 2 free books. All you have to do is drop a comment on that video. So, videos on the channel this week. So, we have had a really good week on the channel. We have had the Soul Stealer review on Monday. Soul Stealer is a genuinely fantastic book that I do think that a lot of people will enjoy. And if you are into that kind of more modern storytelling in fantasy with the inspiration and the notes of classic stuff. I actually spoke to Elle McInerney last night. We recorded an interview for the channel that will be going up next week. We had a great time having a good chat, and she told me about all the inspirations and stuff for the book. I won't spoil it because you'll have to watch the video, but really enjoyed that one. And the review went up on Monday and has been shared far and wide by SPFBO people, so it's actually been seen by quite a lot of people, which is really fun. Next up after that, I put up my Kindle buyer's guide, which is a video that I have been threatening to make for months. And my wife was like, you should just make that video, you have some time this week. So I sat down and made that video. It's 37 minutes long, which might be the longest Kindle buyer's guide on YouTube. But if you want to see not the like tech specs and the like features and functions, but a real reader's point of view on which Kindle is best, maybe a combination of Kindles is actually my true best choice, then I would highly recommend watching that video. Also, I posted a video which is called How I Categorize Books. And this was inspired by talking to Ross and Laura on Sunday when we went out for the day as a little catch-up, hangout, meet-up, whatever. And my plan was to film loads of stuff that day and be like, I'm going to film hanging out with Ross and Laura and chat to them about books and stuff. And then we just ended up having so much fun catching up and chatting that we never actually got round to filming anything really. I think Ross and Laura filmed a few bits. But personally, I took 2 photos basically and did 3 seconds of filming. So, and most of the photos that I took were also, this is to remind me to add this book to my TBR. So yeah, I did this video which was about how I categorize books, and it's about what I am terming the Dewey to Thinky scale. Sorry, my phone just decided to stop recording there for some reason. Maybe it overheated, I don't know. Anyway, let's keep moving. So the sweet spot for the scale for Dewey and Thinky books is around 75% towards the Dewey side, I feel like, or closer to Dewey than Thinky. I like to see plot and payoff in terms of movement and progression along that plot to help me get on board with spending a lot of time on ideas. So some books don't bother with that, some books love doing that. And I find that a good balance of the two can be where my favourite books are. So something like Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio, really strong balance between Dewey and Thinky. And Howling Dark actually leans more towards the Thinky end, but has enough Dewey content to keep my attention. So yeah, really interesting conversation, I think, that I had with myself. And the only reason I'm telling you that I think it's really interesting is because a lot of people have told me they like that video. So if you haven't watched that video, then please go back and give it a watch. There's 0 spoilers in the video. You can watch it completely apropos of nothing. You don't even have to have read a book, because you can apply the Dewey to Thinky scale to lots of things, movies, TV, video games. And then after that, I did a Wandering In episode. As usual, I do one of those every single week. It's episode 11 for season 2 of the Wandering In review show. I still am really enjoying the Wandering In. Volume 2 has not been as well written for me as the rewrite of Volume 1 was, but the rewrite of Volume 1 was written 5 or 6 years later, so that's 5 or 6 years of writing millions of words a year. So Pirate Arbor is obviously going to improve in that time, and it's not below my bar of quality. It's still very good. It's just the previous the rewrite stuff was basically 5 stars that sometimes dip to 4, whereas this feels like it's more 4 that sometimes dips to 3. Still good. Really looking forward to reading more of it. I'm loving being able to read the ebook and also listen to the audiobook, and they're both super cheap. So if you're interested in the Wandering In, that's a really good entry point in that. Well, I mean, the first volume is completely free online on the website. In the rewrite version, which is the best version, which is not the version that Daniel Green read. If you're thinking wow, Daniel Green hated this book, he did not read the good version of it. It's very silly that he did that. So whatever. Also, yeah, so definitely give that one a watch and a read if you have not done so. Next week on the channel, so I've already organised what I'm going to be doing next week. I'm going to be recording, I've already recorded one video, I'm going to be recording the next one in a second. So let's talk about it. So on Monday will be the review for Soul Fraud by Andrew Givler. I was going to do the Eyes of Empire review because that's kind of then going sci-fi fantasy on my reviews, which is how I tend to read books. But I am going to be reviewing 3 books by Andrew Givlow because I've read 2 and I've started the 3rd. So I kind of want to give some space between those. So I'm going to review Soul Fraud first, then Eyes of Empire the week after. But I really enjoyed Soul Fraud, and you're going to be seeing my thoughts on that one on Monday. After that, I'm going to be posting my interview with Mel McInerney, who is the author of Soul Stealer. You can tell that I messed that name up because I was thinking very hard about saying the name right. So she's the author of Soul Stealer, which was a genuinely brilliant book and is my pick for SPFBO. And I highly recommend it. You can get it, paperback, ebook, Kindle, whatever. And yeah, that will go up on that interview will go up on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we're gonna have another kind of chatty video. So this Wednesday, I did my How I Categorize Books, and I quite enjoyed being able to kind of just like sit down and like word vomit my thoughts on it to you guys. And we're going to have another chatty video on Wednesday, and I'm going to record that like straight away now. And that video is going to be my take on the dark side of BookTube. So there's so many videos going out that are about the dark side of BookTube, and I kind of want to give my take on it. I have given my take privately to a lot of my BookTube friends, and I feel like as my viewer community, you might be interested in my take as well. The final thing for that week is going to be Wandering In, and then after that there'll be another Friday wrap-up show. Next week will be the 20th, so we'll be closing in on the end of the month next week. So we've got 2 and a bit weeks left of September, so yeah, next week will be that list of content. Then the week after, either the week after or the week after that will be Novella Week. I haven't decided yet. If it is Novella Week, that means I'll be pushing the Eyes of Empire review again. I'll have to have a think about that, and I will let you guys know. I'll get back to you. So 2 other channel things I want to talk to you about. Number 1, I would like to say a heartfelt thank you to all of you guys who subscribe, because this week we got 1,000 subscribers. Yay! Whatever that meme of the old man waving his hands is. It's been an absolutely wild 2 weeks where the channel has grown by like 140 subs, which is what I would normally get in like a month and a half of subscribers. So thanks so much to all the people that I've seen who have been sharing the channel, and so many people recently have noticed that I've been getting close and have shared the channel and said, hey, you should subscribe because Sam makes great content. And whilst making great content is debatable, I make a lot of content, so who's to say? Other thank you is to go to one of my subscribers here. His name is Sean Bobby Kerr. I apologise, I'm bad with names. He sent me, from my Amazon wishlist, the entire first Law Trilogy. So while the first Law was going to be a like, maybe we'll see how I feel about this in 2025, and maybe I'll start it then, or maybe I'll start it in 2026. Now this has pushed it right. This is the first book, that's why I turned it over. It's pushed it right up the schedule. I don't know when I will be starting this, but I will be starting it at some point. One thing that I wanted to talk about as well is that in order to celebrate hitting 1,000 subscribers, I would like to give something back to you guys, the subscribers, the viewers. So there is going to be a Google form in the comments and in the description here, which will be where you can submit a book or series for me to read. In October, I will be using a randomizer to go through all of the books and series, and I will pick ups, and basically it will be fully random, and you guys, the subscribers, will pick every single book that I read in October. So that's going to be a full month of me reading whatever you guys suggest. I would say I read on average between 3 and 6 books in a month. So there's up to 6-ish choices. The one caveat that I'll say is that I think the book should be science fiction or fantasy, because that's what I read on the channel. So if you nominate something and you're like, I want you to read this Jack Reacher book or whatever, like, I'm kind of interested in that, but that's not what people come to the channel for. They come for science fiction and fantasy. So science fiction and fantasy is where I would like to keep this month of reading. Also, I would like to I don't want to put any barriers on what you can nominate. So if you want to nominate A Court of Thorn and Roses, if you want to nominate Fourth Wing, traditionally books that I wouldn't choose to read, I don't expect. If you want to nominate, if you want to nominate like a joke book, like that Harry Porber book that Chuck Tingle wrote, go for it. The caveat is that if I hate the book, I'm not going to hate read it. I will stop reading it. I will DNF. However, I'll do regular updates on what I'm reading and whether I'm DNFing or anything like that. So if you're interested in submitting a book, this link will be in the description for multiple following videos, and I'll share it on Twitter. I'll share it on Discord if you're on Andrew Watson's Discord. So yeah. Looking forward to seeing what everybody submits. I know Laura has already said she's going to submit Realm of the Elderlings. I will point out that you can submit multiple things. I'm not going to be like, no, you've already said this. But obviously I'm not going to reread anything I've already read. And if you nominate a series, which is absolutely fine, what I will do is either read the first book in that series if I have never read it before, or I'll read the latest book if I am midway through. So if, for example, you nominate Red Rising, I would be reading Iron Gold, which is the next book that I have to read. If you nominated Realm of the Elderlings, I would be reading Mad Ship, which is the next book I have to read. So, but if you nominated First Law, I'd be reading The Blade itself. I would love to have a mix between sci-fi and fantasy. So if you want to nominate one sci-fi and one fantasy, please go for it. I would love that. If I just get 1,000 fantasy submissions, then I guess I'll be reading a lot of fantasy next month, because it is purely going to be on what you guys choose and what the wheel chooses for me. So I really hope that everyone will get involved and will submit some books. And like I said, there'll be a Google form in the description. And I will probably ask for your email address, but I won't do anything with it. So I'll be asking for your email address basically just to make sure that people don't submit like 300 different things. I would like to, be reasonable, think about letting other people have chances. Also, I would probably say, if you're a self-published author and you're watching this, try to nominate other people's books and not your own. That's all I'm going to say. Nominate your own book is a bit gauche, I would feel. But, you do you. If you're interested in monetized YouTube, the dark side of BookTube, I'll be recording that later today. I've been monetized for 5 days, so I've got tons of experience to talk about. But we've made £1.83 on the channel this week, which is pretty exciting. That's paid for almost 2 Kindle Daily Deal 99p ebooks. So watch this space and I'll keep you guys updated. I'm probably going to do a 1 month of monetized video when that happens, because I really love watching those. So I will do something similar to what I did with starting BookTube, where I do 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and I'll talk to you guys about how BookTube is going from a monetization perspective. I have also had a couple of inquiries about whether I have a Patreon. I am not planning on starting one for the time being. Currently, I don't really have time to do extra videos, which is the thing that I would like to offer to patrons. What I'm probably going to do is, after next summer, so this sounds like a very long time away, because it kind of is. This time next year, I will probably start something like a Patreon, unless I get a huge influx of requests to start one. And that will probably be next summer. And the reason I'm going to do next summer is because I really struggle with recording videos while both my kids are home from school. So when my son is at school at the moment, when he's home from school, it's a real struggle to record videos. I end up recording like 11 o'clock at night, and I don't like doing that. I have less time to read, less time to record. It's a real struggle. So over the summer, I don't want to promise loads of Patreon stuff, everyone get used to it, and then it kind of die off in July and August next year. I would like to probably start from September next year. And my daughter will be not doing nursery or anything by that point, but she will be, my wife will be back at work. So when she's working, my daughter will be at a grandparent's house, and then there will be a bit more space and time again to do video stuff. So long story short, wait for next September. Probably could come earlier if I think of a good way to do it, but that's probably what I'm going to do, is around a year's time do something like Patreon or YouTube channel memberships. I have thought about launching the memberships like straight away, but I know stuff that I want to offer, and that stuff I don't have time for at the moment. Anyway, that's a really long rant on the future of the channel, and if you're curious about, I have also been doing long-term reading planning for what series I'm going to be covering in my monthly read-along once Wheel of Time is finished. Matt and I have already said that we want to do Malazan after Wheel of Time is finished. Whether that comes together or not will probably depend on a billion different factors, whether we're bored of talking to each other, all this sort of stuff. But maybe we'll do it together. If not, I may try and find someone else who wants to read Malazan with me, if Matt is busy. But Matt is the number one. He gets first dibs. So that is a really, really long rigmarole end of video. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I've also started recording the videos in 4K. So I don't know whether that is something that anyone cares about. It does take a lot longer to edit these videos when they come out in 4K. However, apparently YouTube prefers 4K videos, so we're going to be making 4K for a while, and I will see whether the stats are vastly improved. If they're not, whatever. I don't mind going back to 1080p. Anyway, very, very long video this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had a great time with me this week. If you like this video, give it a like. If you have something to chat with me about, I'd love to know what you're reading, what you're watching, what you're playing. Put that down in the comments down below, and we can chat about everything that we're all up to. And of course, if you're one of the people who has not subscribed, if you're not one of the 1,000 strong army of Sam fans, then I would encourage you to join up, because you'll be then the first people to hear about the new content when it goes live, which is Monday to Friday at 5 p.m. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you on Monday.